This is 89.7 WDVR, Delaware Township, New Jersey, 90.5 WPNJ, Easton, Pennsylvania. WDVR may also be heard on 92.3 W222BV, Harmony Township, New Jersey, 96.9 W245CC, Trenton, New Jersey, 106.7 W294BQ, Easton, Pennsylvania, and 95.9 W240CY, Mount Bethel, New Jersey.
Do you own a local business? Are you looking for a new way to reach your community? Cut through the noise and madness of social media internet marketing and become a WDVR corporate underwriter. Underwriter promos are aired 3 times each day and narrated by WDVR DJs. Whether you've just opened your doors or have been serving the community for years, WDVR Underwriting offers a uniquely powerful asset for your business's marketing portfolio. For more information, email us wdvr@wdvr.org.
Basil Bandwagon Natural Market supports community radio WDVR. With 3 groceries in Hunterdon County, Basil is a one-stop shop for all things healthy. They carry diet-friendly desserts, holiday staples, and fresh prepared foods. Open daily 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in Flemington, Clinton, and Lambertville. Their number is 908-788-5737 and online at basilbandwagon.com.
Underwriting WDVR is Bobolink Dairy and Bakehouse, a sustainable, grass-fed family farm on Stamets Road in Milford, New Jersey. Presenting Mara Bird with Joe Cerati and Pete Lister on August 18th. The last lawn concert of the summer starts at 3 p.m. with picnic food available. Tickets are $15. More information is online at cowsoutside.com.
The Bucks County SPCA helps animals in need and prevents suffering through rescue, rehoming, cruelty investigation, prosecution, and community outreach. They have more than dogs and cats available. There are various small animals, barn cats, and sometimes farm animals. To adopt or learn more about their work, visit buckscountyspca.org or call 215-794-7425.
This is Shep Cohen with big news. The world of work has moved to Tuesdays. Join me weekly and continue listening to engaging and stimulating conversations about work.
Remember to tune in every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for a variety of informative discussions about work, right here on WDVR FM.
See you on the radio.
And
And this is The World of Work, and I'm your host, Shep Cohen. Our guest today is Eva Friedberg. She's a key member of the Evari GIS leadership team. And Eva Friedberg leads financial decisions and all kinds of staff and growth and development and safety and labor and compliance and employment benefits issues in the company. Her organization and business skills and her passion for spatial analysis have contributed to her continued success in the company. She and her husband started the company many years ago. She's taken over the reins, and she'll talk about what it's like to start a business, how a business progresses, some of the mistakes that people make when they first start a business, and how they learn from their mistakes. She also has a PhD in visual studies from the University of California at Irvine. Eva Friedberg, welcome to The World of Work. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you with us here today.
Thanks, Shep. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
it's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me, what's the history of your company?
Yeah, sure. Evari GIS Consulting was formed about almost 15 years ago now. My husband, Ari Isaac, is a GIS professional. He was working he had a number of jobs in San Diego as a GIS analyst, once at an environmental consulting company, and then he was working for the Port of San Diego, and found himself very frustrated in his jobs. He had a lot of ideas about what he wanted to do with the technology. GIS is a mapping technology. He's a very out-of-the-box type thinker. He kind of has that entrepreneurial spirit. And out of that frustration, he decided, I'm going to try to do this on my own and see if I can get some of my own clients and that way I won't have to get permission from my boss in order to experiment with new things with the technology. He started doing that, and then in 2012, that was in 2009, in 2012, our daughter was born, our second daughter. He decided to use his paternity leave, which was about 2 months, to see if we could fully support our family with this work. And he never really went back. I think he went back one day to give in his 2 weeks notice. At that time, I was an adjunct professor teaching architecture history and urban studies at a number of colleges here in the San Diego area, including University of San Diego. And very soon it became apparent that what he had going, he had landed a couple of good-sized clients, and what he had going was growing. And as a family, we made the decision that it made sense for me to come along and help him. So I kind of pivoted in my own career, still teaching, but just taught less, and signed up for some business classes, some accounting classes, and tried to learn the kind of the ABCs of how to run a business. And from that point on, I always managed the administrative side, the HR, as you read in my bio, a lot of the HR, the finances, making sure we had the proper insurance, and so that there were no hiccups or problems when we bid jobs or worked for our clients. My goal was always to make sure that the business operated smoothly and none of the administrative side of the business got in the way of its growth.
Now, I mentioned, and you've mentioned Evari GIS. What does that mean? What does that stand for?
Evari GIS?
Yes.
So, well, Evari is the combination of Ari and my first names. I know it's
okay.
Creative. It actually started as a cocktail that we offered at our wedding. We needed a name for the cocktail. So it's my name, Eva, and Ari's name, Ari, combined to Evari. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. Geographic Information Systems was started maybe about in the 60s, I believe, 60s, 70s, by a man named Jack Dangerman, who, it's sort of an interesting story and describes what GIS is. He had a family nursery in the city of Redlands, and they had all these different crops in the nursery. And in order to manage the nursery, he wanted to figure out, where the different crops were, what their watering schedules were, what they needed, what maintenance they needed, when they were last, let's say, pruned. And so he started to layer this information in a mapping format. So taking the watering schedules, and that's where GIS as a technology was born. He's now the owner of the company Evari, which is the company that creates all the mapping software that we use today. So it's really a mapping technology where we take data that can be spatially oriented and put that data on a map and in a way that it can be analyzed, and we can answer important questions from that data.
And what is the data? What's the outcome of your analysis of the data? What type of product are you?
So I can give you a couple of examples. One of the things that we work a lot with is with street lighting, municipal street lighting. Street lights have undergone a shift over the last 20 years to LED street lights. And what we will do is collect data and inventory where all the street lights are, the types of wattages, the types of fixtures of the different lamps, and we'll orient all of those to a location on a map. And we confirm that the data is accurate so that when the city needs to either install new streetlights or they need to maintain their current inventory of streetlights, they know that they have accurate data digitized. The key is the digitization of the data, right? So in the past, people would walk around. You can imagine them walking the streets with a clipboard, taking notes of the types of assets that are in the field in the city, like the streetlight posts. What material is it? We've taken all of that with this technology, created an efficiency for it, so that it is available on a digital map that anybody who wants that information can access. So if they need to know how many fixtures, Cobra head fixtures, do we need to order, they can quickly look that up, see where all the Cobra fixtures in the city are and how many they need to order, so they don't over-order, under-order, which could actually, seems like a small detail, but in the end, that can cost, a mistake on ordering fixtures can cost the city, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So your clients then are municipalities?
Mostly municipalities. We work a lot with, we work on municipal projects, utility companies, and government agencies, that are managing infrastructure.
So how is it that the two of you came up with this idea? I mean, most people don't think, well, I want to work digitizing street lamps or street lights.
It kind of happened by chance a little bit. Ari, like I said early on, was trying to make a go of this new career, outside of having a boss, do it on his own. And he got a phone call from a contractor here in San Diego called Southern Contracting. They found his website that said he did GIS consulting services, mapping services. And they said, we're doing this job for the city of San Diego where we have to replace all of the streetlights. Can you help us? We don't know how to do this. And he said, yeah, I can help you. And so that's where the streetlight part of it came.
How did they know to contact him?
I honestly think they found his website. He put together a website that says, I do GIS consulting. Another thing was that years ago, nowadays, when you go to the different city websites to look for the types of projects, the requests for proposals, and the types of projects that you can bid on for work, oftentimes GIS is listed as a requirement. We want to have this stormwater maintenance project, and we're requiring you to use GIS technology. Back, when we started about 10 years ago, that requirement wasn't always there, but it wasn't there because there were fewer people that knew how to utilize GIS. So Ari actually did a lot of advocating to the city. He spoke in front of the city council many times to tell people, this is GIS, this is a great technology, we can help bring efficiency to city projects. And I think sometimes, so folks kind of knew, there's this new thing called GIS. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to call and see if, Evari GIS can help.
Do you have competitors, or do you have a...
We do have competitors. There are, I would say that when it comes to street lighting, we're by far the company that does GIS and street lighting. I don't think that there's another company that does GIS and street lighting that's so niche in that section that we do. There are many GIS consulting companies, and GIS can be applied as a technology to so many different industries and projects that there's room for a lot of GIS consultants out there. And the only thing I will add is that the biggest challenge for us these days is, as far as competition, are large environmental engineering consulting firms that are starting to bring in their own GIS specialists. And because they are sometimes have national footprints, they're a little bit harder to compete with. We're a mom and pop, we're a pretty small boutique shop.
And if you're looking to get a job with the municipality, does someone from do you or Ari or someone else go to city council meetings, and or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Nowadays, we have a team. We have I have a director of business solutions named Nick Messler, and we put together proposals. Nick and our managing director Brian, they're very good at putting together proposals and bids. Sometimes we are on a larger team of consultants that are bidding a project. So we partner with some of those larger or companies I was mentioning. We might partner with them, and we put together a joint proposal. We submit it to the city. Most of the time, if the project needs to get approval from city council, it kind of happens without us. It's often on a consent agenda, something like that, which is it's just not very controversial enough that requires public comment. But it is oftentimes just a budgetary matter that some projects do need to go through city council.
I did a show.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I did a show a few weeks ago with a woman who studied entrepreneurs. Not big entrepreneurs, but people I guess in your same category. And she mentioned that you have to be really dedicated to your work and work very hard, but also take some risks. The two of you, did you consider yourself entrepreneurs? I mean, you obviously are now, but did you think of yourselves in those terms?
I did listen to that show. It was very interesting. So with the guest you had about entrepreneurs. So I think Ari has an entrepreneurial spirit that he probably has had since he was a kid. He used to tell me stories about how he would collect things and sell them, and he always had ideas of how to make money or how to do this and that. And for me, I never thought that I would. I always thought that I would have a more traditional career. But going along with Ari, there are definitely some risks that I think we took. There was a time when we first started the business and our children were just babies, and he quit his job. He left a company, government benefits and all that, and we didn't know, would we be able to pay for our own benefits for a year or two? And there were certainly a couple of times when a project is ending and you don't quite yet know if the next one is going to come in. That, is a little nerve-wracking, of course. Luckily now, always a little nervous. It always makes me a little nervous. You always, I think, worry that, are we getting to the end of a good run here? No matter if it's been 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, I think there's always a little bit of that. But you kind of get used to the risk a little bit more. You get more comfortable in sitting with it. It just becomes kind of how things are.
Do you advertise, or traditional advertising or online advertising?
Not really. Because our clients are large companies, either who we're teaming with to bid on municipal projects, we're not, we're more of like a B2B company. We're not dealing with consumers, individual consumers. We don't advertise. We network a lot. Our primary goal for generating business is through relationship building. So we spend a lot of time, whether it's on LinkedIn or going to conferences, professional networking events. We're very involved in certain associations and groups here in San Diego, the Chamber of Commerce, and we just meet people. We meet people that work for the city, and we're not afraid to send out an email and said, hey, can I meet you for a cup of coffee? I'd love to tell you about, what we do. So it's a lot of that, and then we find that if we maintain good relationships, if a relationship turns into a project and then we deliver good work on that project, it'll come back with more work. So, and our team, our analysts who are client facing and talk to clients every day, one of the things we're always teaching them is, that customer service and the relationship that you build with your client is not just great for Evari GIS, for our company. It's great for you as a professional. It helps grow your own professional image and your own career, and the more people you know, the more better connected you are, and it sets you up for future.
Do you actually do you send people out to location to work? Or is it all done electronically?
We do, yes, we do a combination of what we would call field work, where we send people into the field, which can be anywhere in the U.S. We've done projects in Hawaii. We had field teams just in March, April. We had a team on Maui, all the way to Cape Cod. We've done Cape Cod. We've done work in Miami. We've had teams in Miami. And oftentimes what we do is we'll send a project manager. So one of them work a permanent staff, and that project manager, with the help of our central office in San Diego, will hire a local team, a field team. And depending on the size of the project, we'll determine, the client has a 3-month schedule. So there's 100,000 assets that need to be checked and inventoried or collected. So we'll figure out the math, and we'll figure out we need to hire 10 people, 20 people. And sometimes we'll work with community organizations to hire with job force, workforce groups to help us hire. Because a lot of cities like the fact that we're not just a company from an outside state company just coming in and doing the work, but we're actually generating jobs for for the city. So we did that in Boston, and we did that in Philadelphia, and we had quite a large workforce there, and it was really great. We got to meet a lot of local people, and get them involved in the work that has a permanent effect on the city that they live in.
Now it appears as if you had good timing with the conversion to LED lighting around the time you're starting out. Was that helped your business?
Yes, I think Ari is very good with the numbers and the statistics. He knows exactly how many streetlights there are in the entire United States and how many needs to be converted and how all that converted to LEDs. But suffice to say, just broadly speaking, when we started, there were many cities that still were undergoing these projects that we could help them with. LEDs have about a 10-year lifespan, which is another reason why they're attractive for cities to install. But after that 10 years, theoretically, they may need to go through it all again. And it's been about 10 years since we started doing this. But the thing is, the technology is changing. And so now cities are not just interested in the LED conversions, they're interested in smart streetlights. Everybody's interested in smart cities and trying to define what that means. Having streetlights that dim at certain schedules, that can change color temperatures based on where they're located. So there's a whole new arena of work to be done in street lighting. It's more focused now, maybe less on just the straight conversion from HPS to LEDs, which saves energy. But now it's about how are we going to design, how do we use GIS to come up with a lighting design, a lighting plan for our city. So it's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff that's happening. You can, and a lot of factors that are involved in that. Besides, you may think of beautification. Some people hate the very white lights. Most people do. And I don't blame them. But so people want like a warmer light. But there's also environmental reasons for putting in certain types of streetlights. There are animals that migrate at night that can be distracted by very light lights, and their migration patterns can get ruined. There's a whole a movement for dark skies. I don't know if you're familiar with that, which is cutting down on light pollution and hopefully bringing back the stars to our city. And all of this is possible if we think about how, are more nuanced in how we design our streetlights.
Is this dark sky? Is there laws which mandate some of this?
There are some cities or towns and cities that have begun to implement dark skies initiatives with laws. It's growing as a movement. It's not everywhere, but there are pockets. A lot of it has started with national parks, but even in urban environments, there's a town near San Diego called Julian. It's a very small town, but they have a dark skies initiative. So they have strict rules and guidelines for exterior lighting. And one thing that we did as a company is we all got certified as community-friendly lighting specialists. So everyone at Evari GIS pretty much is certified in knowing, what the basic guidelines are for designing lighting to be dark sky compliant.
Are there other states besides California that have these initiatives, or?
Well, yeah, it's national. I watched. There was a movie I saw. I'm trying to think of the town. I believe it was in maybe Rhode Island. There's on the East Coast as well. I'd have to look it up, but it's and also in Europe, it's very popular in certain areas of Europe. It's a growing movement, and it's in my opinion, it's a movement. It's kind of like a no-brainer, right? Because you save energy, right? and you create more beautiful urban environments, and you can bring back the sky, the stars. It's a no kind of. So hopefully it catches on.
Before GIS, how would a municipality go about determining which light bulbs or street lamps had to be changed and which ones
They would have pieces of paper where they would record like a spreadsheet. So they would use spreadsheets, but the data on the spreadsheet would be, and the spreadsheets would not be attributed to a point on a map. And maybe they would find the location by address. So they'd have a printout with a series of addresses, no particular order, and that's how they would have the street lines, the information about the street lines. It was pretty chaotic, and that's one of the things that we do and continue to do is we'll take older data and digitize it and make it accessible and easily so you can process it easily, right? So you might have a spreadsheet with a lot of different addresses. Let's say your utility company has a spreadsheet and it has the addresses of all the streetlights. And then you have the city that has another set of data that has the addresses of all the streetlights. But the way they format that address field are completely different. So what we'll do is we can take that data and we can reconcile it. So you have one very, very nice grouping of data that's associated with the map, and you can pull up every single post or every asset. And streetlights are a great example, and that's what we do a lot of work in, but it can be anything. It really can be anything that can be located on a map. It can be a storm drain. It can be a sidewalk. It could be fire hydrants, street signs.
But you've stayed with streetlights primarily?
I would say 75% of our work is in streetlights. Right now, I think we are expanding. We do work in other areas. One of the areas we work in is ADA compliance, the American Disabilities Act.
Yes.
So the work we do there is we'll take data from the inspectors that go out and take measurements on curb ramps, the curb siding. If there's cracks in the sidewalk, they send inspectors out. They collect that data. We help map it for them, and then essentially the Department of Transportation can prioritize how they want to fix issues in order to ideally prevent liability for issues that might come up if there are incidents on the city streets regarding the unsafe sidewalks and ramps.
Now, when your employees go to location, have you had any problems, or have you learned from a human resources perspective which employees to hire, which ones not to hire? Have you gained expertise in that area?
It's definitely been a learning process. We used to send a full team to a city. We would hire the team out of our office in San Diego, and then we would send like 4 or 5 people to a city. Let's say we did a job years ago in Phoenix, Arizona, and we sent a team of maybe 5, 6 people. We rented a very large house, and these were professionals, GIS field technicians early on in their career. And we hired a project manager to manage that team. And in this particular case in Phoenix, Arizona, the team went out to do the work during the day. They came back to the house. They were all relaxing. There was a pool in the backyard, which was a nice perk for them, nice amenity. But then 2 of the guys started to drink a little bit, got into a heated conversation, and it turned out that our project manager turned around and punched one of the guys in the face. So after that, this was probably 8 years ago. And, of course, as a business owner, that's when you get the phone call at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night and about what's happened, and you start to try to manage and mediate the problem from afar. As one of the employees is being taken away in an ambulance. So that was quite a learning experience as far as making sure that when employees or when team members not only work together during the day, but then are also lodged together, that we undergo a very thorough training and also screening of those managers. I think that we were quite scrappy back in the day, and we kind of hired people a little bit more quickly maybe than we should have. Said, oh, you're willing to travel for a job? Okay, you have a job. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, our background screening for managers and our training of managers is a lot more thorough. Everybody, if it would ever happen that we put people in a house together, which we don't do very often anymore, but if it were to happen, there are a series of house rules that need to be complied to. And I guess you could say we've matured as a company in the sense that we now present a more professional onboarding experience, training experience, screening experience, so to prevent some of those things from happening again. I think when I was new to the human resources side of my job, I sort of thought, oh, most things are common sense. Nobody's going to punch another employee in the face. I guess
You'd be surprised.
Over the years, I guess I have been surprised that, what I think is common sense is not always common sense. So that's been, so now we're, like I said, we're a lot more mature as a company. We have very specific training and to make sure that those types of we don't get those phone calls in the middle of the night anymore.
What's it like to work in the business with your husband?
It's been really great. I have to say that when we first started, I was very nervous about it. Because I knew how much time we would be spending together. But actually, when we started and we had this very young family, like I mentioned, our daughters were babies at the time, and there were a lot of demands, home demands with children, and going to help and going to work in the business side by side with Ari. It really allowed me to see how hard he was working to start this business, and then I became invested in working as hard as he was, and so. If he had to travel, which sometimes he did have to travel for 2 to 3 months at a time, because back in the day we didn't always have staff to do the field work. So I would stay home with 2 young children, and I didn't feel, it kind of curbed my resentment, right? So I didn't feel, I knew we were together in this vision of starting this company. I knew it was what he had to do. And so I was able to support at home what needed to happen at home, and vice versa, right? And now, and when I need to do stuff, if I need to go to events that are late at night, he understands, and he'll kind of take the reins at home. And surprisingly, working sometimes 3-4 feet from each other over the years in our 2 desks. I mean, it's actually been quite great. We have this shared passion. Of course, there definitely were challenges. I think that sometimes we come home after a long day of seeing each other all day, and instead where most couples might be sharing everything they did that day and want to spend time together, we kind of be like, okay, let's have some time.
You want your own space.
You go to your space and I'll go to my space. Yes. So, because we do. And then I think another plus, actually, when you're talking about when we think about the pandemic and COVID and lockdown, and so many people I heard struggled, being in the same house and working from home with their spouses. Me and Ari were like, yeah, this is nothing. We're used to this. So that was another benefit, I guess.
Is the background that you have, your PhD in, Has that helped you in any respect in this business?
I think it's helped me in a few ways. I mean, my PhD is in visual studies, and really that's kind of a broader study of visual culture. And I specialized in architecture history and urban studies, which is what I was teaching on. So having a knowledge and the history for the built environment, which is a lot of what is all of our work in practice, really. We're contributing to design municipal construction projects. Kind of gives me that background knowledge, the history of urbanism in the United States. But then as far as running a business, nothing really like getting a PhD lines up one-to-one in running a business. I didn't take economics classes or finance classes in my schooling, but it did teach me how to learn, how to research, how to know what I don't know and figure out what I need to know. And I'm like a lifetime learner. I'm taking classes right now. I think it's and so I think that's kind of helped me grow, always trying to find out more information. That's helped.
Have you found HR difficult?
I think HR is the hardest part of my job. Yeah. It's kind of like what we were talking about before, which is like sometimes you just think things are common sense, but they're not, and everything needs to be spelled out. And especially in California too, there are so many employment laws that you have to know, and I kind of have my employment attorney on speed dial sometimes. I think that just to make sure I'm not making a mistake or doing something wrong. And it's a tough, environment to employ people. Everybody is always, I think, I want Evari GIS to be a great experience for our staff, and I want them to love working here. But I also know that there are many experiences and job opportunities that we're competing with. And in this day and age, young folks are getting what they can out of a certain job experience, and then they're going on to the next one. So that's hard too. I have met some really wonderful, talented professionals that have come through our doors and now are off doing other great things. And it's, I'm happy when, that happens, but also we're always working hard to build our team here and build a great, we want people to stay for as long as possible.
Yeah, the world of work has changed in that respect. People in my generation would work for one employer for 30, 40 years often. Now, the younger people jump around from position to position to get experience and build their resumes.
It's a different. I actually read a book about something called the tour of duty, which I think about a lot, which is that employees will come to you as an employer, and you sit down with them and you come up with kind of goals for their growth, for how they're going to help the company, and what I wish I remembered the author's name, but what he called a tour of duty. So somewhat like in the, like you're enlisting in the Army for a tour, and they come to you and you work together, and they succeed in completing their tour. Oftentimes there'll be time for them to move on, but other times they'll decide to re-up, right, and go on, and then you redesign the next tour. And the whole goal is to kind of allow the employee to grow with the business. But it doesn't always happen. And if they finish their tour, the first tour, and they decide that it's time to move on, it's no hard feelings. That's just, hopefully you can create that tour so both parties benefit from that working experience together.
Has anyone worked for you, left, and come back eventually?
We actually just rehired that first person is going to be starting that in about a month. Yeah. So we have this analyst Dan, great addition to our company. He worked here for a couple of years. He actually was the project manager on our Philadelphia project and did an awesome job. He had family in Minnesota and decided that it was time for him to move back. And then he did that for about a year, and then recently reached out and said, "Hey,
what are some of the job titles of your employees, and maybe tell a little bit about what they do?"
So we have our employees team is kind of split into two types. We have analysts, GIS analysts, and they are, I would say, more client facing. They work directly with clients on projects, and they solve the clients' the problems and deliver on the projects. And then we have, and those are GIS analysts. We have analysts, senior analysts. We also have folks that are more IT based, GIS administrators. So they work behind the scenes a lot, making sure the databases are up and running and all the administrative computer technology, all the systems that need to be created to run the GIS systems are working. And everyone works very closely together, but I would say those are the two biggest roles we have. We also have the field team or GIS technicians, and we do have a series of GIS technicians that do desktop work, meaning that they're not in the field. They do a lot of quality control. So they'll be looking at data and just looking for mistakes and making sure that everything we deliver to the client is accurate.
Do people work from home, or do they go to an office?
Our San Diego team works in the office 3 days a week, so it's a hybrid, 2 days at home. We do have a few folks that work permanently remote, mainly because they don't live in San Diego.
Do you put postings up for employees at colleges or anything of that?
To find people?
Yes.
To find employees? We have in the past. Posted at certain colleges and been in touch with GIS programs. So oftentimes we'll get in touch with like a GIS professor, and the professor will advertise for us. But for our GIS technicians, we also just go the kind of regular run-of-the-mill route of posting to Indeed and ZipRecruiter, I think, those types of large posts.
If someone wanted you to mentor them and they asked you for advice in running and starting a business, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to expect to fail and expect to make mistakes, but that it's okay, and that the failure part is just a learning. Just that you can't be afraid to make mistakes, and you can't be afraid to fail, and just realize that every day is a new day, and you just keep going and you learn from your mistakes. Be persistent.
Is there any type of podcasts or other media that you consume?
One of my favorite podcasts is Hidden Brain on NPR. So this is a podcast. It's a psychology podcast. I think their tagline is the why in human behavior. Like, why do we do the things we do? I really like it from an HR perspective. It helps. They do have some shows that are specific to work and work environments and how to communicate, how to solve conflicts, how to talk about hard things, how to have hard conversations. So I find Hidden Brain very helpful for some of the more challenging human resources side of issues that I might face.
I had a show about 5 years ago with a man who was a coach, and he coached on how to tell employees whose hygiene is not very good, to take a shower occasionally. And they
Luckily, I haven't had to deal with that specific issue. But yes, there's lots of HR challenges, and I've had to deal with pet allergies. I've had to deal with I feel like pet allergies was a big one, where someone couldn't come into the office because a dog had been in the office a few months prior.
What plans do you have for the future of your company?
Well, we have my husband Evari is no longer working at the consulting company. He started a new company called Evari Labs, and he's focused on product development and innovative GIS technologies, developing those, while we are focused on the consulting side of the company. So there's a couple of ways that I think we're looking forward. One is there's many new technologies out there that are collecting data more quickly and possibly more cheaply. So there's a lot of new hardware that will take like 360-degree photographs, or you carry a backpack on your back and it is measuring light. It's like a light meter measurement. So we're exploring with these new technologies as they're changing and seeing what's the best use of these new hardware, and how can we help our clients solve their problems with them. We're a small shop, and we don't have very large investment dollars to go spending on all of these new technologies. So we have to be very targeted and careful with what we evaluate and how we can make good use of these technologies to integrate it into our data and our analysis that we do. That's one thing. I mean, the other thing is, we talked a lot about streetlights here. We are expanding, and we're working with looking to hire subject matter experts in a variety of fields. Right now, our director of business solutions is a traffic engineer. Brian Gaze is an urban planner. I'm an architectural historian, and there's actually quite a bit of room for GIS to work with historical resource consulting. I'm looking at how I can help cities with their historic resource inventories using GIS and mapping technologies. So we're expanding in that way, always continuing the streetlight work, but definitely looking to move into more verticals and different types of subject matters in that way as well.
It seems as if you've taken on tasks in your business which you would not have ordinarily have thought was going to be in your future. Has the challenge been fun, or has it been a real a difficult challenge?
I have to say I love it, because it's never boring. Never, ever boring. I mean, it's the best thing about my job, and the best thing about is that there's always new directions to go in. There's always new things to learn and new problems to solve. And every time I think I know I've solved something, then there's a new question that comes up. The other day I had, we were doing a job in San Antonio, Texas, where dogs were an issue for our team. There were loose dogs off leash, and some of our team were nervous because they're out in the street and there are these unidentified dogs, and of course safety is a huge concern. And they called me and they said, "Hey, is it okay if we get our team pepper spray?" And I think to myself, never thought about that.
So you called your lawyer.
Called my lawyer. So, and then there's the whole question is like, I might find out that, yes, well, in Texas, it's okay for them to carry pepper spray. But then on the other hand, do I really want my team to be carrying pepper spray? So, that's just one example of something I would never have thought of ever having to solve or think of. Just comes up and it's fun.
You mentioned a little bit about balancing your home life with business. Has that been difficult?
Yes, of course, it's difficult. It's a challenge. I mean, my girls are now 12 and 14. My oldest just started high school yesterday. You always think that with as they get older, it might get easier. I don't know that it does. It just changes, and they still need us. They need us there. But I'm also grateful because of the type of job I have. I can be in charge of how I manage my time. So while there's good and bad to that, there are times when I have to get things done and it's 11 o'clock at night and I'd rather go to sleep. But I know that I'm the kind of, the buck stops with me with my business. Like my business is going to be successful based on whether or not the things get done. I'm not answering to anybody else. So that, that can be a challenge, but it's also wonderful because I can pick up my kids from school at 3:30 if I need to or want to, right? So I always love that flexibility as well.
When you're driving at night, do you look at the light bulbs or and say,
definitely,
this is a place that needs...
My kids know how to identify whether a light is an LED or not. They're pretty good at it. They've heard it so much from their mom and dad.
You don't really, I guess, need to do like a road trip. The GIS figures it all out electronically to decide what a particular city needs.
To go there, you mean?
Yes.
It really depends. I don't travel very much I personally don't travel very much for the company, but our business solutions folks often do because, we are small, and one of the things we pride ourselves on that we can offer is that, those relationships, that trusted advisor relationships. Sometimes that means meeting our clients in person. But that's really for relationships. I think that, from a technical standpoint, a lot of what we do can be done from afar.
Well, Eva Friedberg, our hour is up. Really went fast. I really appreciate your speaking with us from California, and your business sounds like it's really booming. We appreciate it. Any closing remarks?
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank you, and it's been really fun. I can't believe an hour's gone by. I usually don't talk so much, so you got me talking.
Well, you did a great job. Thanks a lot. This is The World of Work. I'm your host, Shep Cohen, and we just spoke with Eva Friedberg, and it was a very interesting conversation, and which we try to have each week on The World of Work, and we'll have one again next week. Until then, this is Shep Cohen. Good night.